Welcome back to End is the Future, a podcast that brings together great minds to address the opportunities and challenges of making businesses both sustainable and profitable. I am Ilham Kadri, and I'm delighted to be your host today. If you are as passionate about sustainable business as I am, let's explore how End is the Future together. Hello, everyone. Today, I'm delighted to be here with the Dean of the Solvay Brussels Schools of Economics and Management here in Belgium, Bruno Van Pottelsberghe. Bruno is a professor, a top Belgian economist, a senior fellow at the Bruegel think tank in Brussels, and in general, an expert on how we can create businesses that are both sustainable and profitable. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about that. Bruno, thank you so much for joining me today.
Good morning, Ilham, and thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here today.
Me too. Bruno, you are one of the foremost economists in Belgium and head of one of the best business schools in Belgium, and I'm a bias. It carries a name which is very close to my heart. But before we talk about the school, I always start my podcast like this. I would like to talk about you. Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing and what put you on the path to an economics career and how you became interested specifically in sustainable business and in education?
Thank you very much. So about me, I lived all my youth in Africa, in Zaire. And then we came back suddenly I came back with my sister in Belgium when there was the war in Katanga. We were located in Kolwezi, and
wow.
we fled instantly through the brush. And in 2 days I was back to Belgium, which I didn't know actually. And then I lived in the countryside, and we came back to Brussels because we really liked the values of ULB, Université Libre de Bruxelles. The Libre is very important because it's about freedom of thinking. It's about critical thinking. I was not aiming at doing a PhD. I wanted to go in the industry. And I actually started enjoying doing research, and probably it became a passion when I was accepted to collaborate. I did my own Erasmus exchange, I would say. I became visiting researcher in MITI in Tokyo, working with a professor from Tsukuba for 6 months. And then I came back and I went to Columbia University in New York to work with a professor as well. And that's where I really dived into research on innovation policies, innovation economics, and patent actually. And when I came back from the US, before the end of my PhD, I was recruited by the OECD in Paris, and I worked on science and technology policies. And that's the time my boss came up with a huge floppy disk that was a very big one.
Yeah.
There was no USB stick at that time.
Yeah, I remember those.
and he had 2 million patent filed at the European Patent Office. And he asked me to crunch it and to create the first series that we would use at the OECD to measure innovation performance in countries. And I was appointed at ULB after 2 years at the OECD as the holder of the first privately funded chair at ULB. It was back in 1999, and it was the Solvay Chair of Innovation. And I'm still
Really?
Yes. I'm still the owner of that chair. And so I came back here and very happy. I joined the Solvay Business School, which later would become an autonomous faculty.
Well, thank you, Bruno. And I think we have a lot in common. You are an African lover, love, Japan as well. And it's interesting what you said about getting to PhD by accident and then loving, just the research and putting science, technology together, including with policymakers. So you've been teaching at the Solvay Brussels School of Economics and Management at the Université Libre de Bruxelles. By the way, libre in French means freedom. That's why you were alluding to the importance of that word. And last year was a very special year for your rights because it was the school's 120th 120 anniversary. And thank you for, including me in that celebration. And of course, we have a lot in common again here because we have the same humanist founder, Ernest Solvay, who started the Solvay Brussels School in 1903. So like us at Science Co today, which is the merger from Solvay company, I'm sure you are proud of this legacy. Can you tell us what it means to you?
Yes, very proud of the legacy, actually, of both the school and the Université Libre de Bruxelles. I think that Ernest Solvay, I don't think Ernest Solvay helped a lot Brussels Université Libre de Bruxelles, before creating the school. He funded the Physiology Institute, the Sociology Institute before the Business School.
That in was Parc Leopold, by the way, Bruno. They are the three institutes. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And it was highly innovative at that time to fund the Sociology Institute, some laboratories in chemistry and so on. So he was a very big, important funder of the university in general. And the last, well, maybe not the last action, but the most important one came in 1903 when he created the Solvay Business School. It started beside the university, but it was very quickly fully integrated in a broader faculty, which at that time was called SOCO. And I think the values of the school, on top of the one of ULB, which I already mentioned about critical thinking, freedom of thinking, research orientation, the values he brought to the school was the values of innovation, entrepreneurial thinking, which is, of course, very closely associated with freedom, and as well a kind of dynamism and a very strong multidisciplinary approach to education. It's still highly innovative and not frequent nowadays to have business engineering degree, whereby you have such a multidisciplinary approach, including physics, chemistry, but as well law, sociology, economics, and of course the managerial disciplines. And as well in our bachelor in economics, this multidisciplinarity approach transpires a lot, and the research orientation of the school, which is really, I would say, our flagship. We have very good programs and very good research, and we extend the quality of this program in our lifelong learning services offer.
And indeed, I think like you, I always admired Ernest Solvay, right? He was a humanist, lover of science, technology, and he brought sociology and then education. So as interesting, you became the dean of the school. So how did you become the dean of the school? And I'm intrigued by, obviously, I know a lot about your career by now, but during your tenure, what are those key initiatives or projects or contribution that you are most proud of?
Thank you. So the first time I became a dean of the school, it was in 2011, and actually it was also by accident. I was the vice dean of the faculty at that time, because we created an autonomous faculty of economics and business in 2011. I was the vice dean for 6 months, and I agreed to be the vice dean because I had a project in mind related to internationalization and creating a global network. And 6 months in the position, the dean, Professor de Watripon, was appointed by Elio Di Rupo, the then prime minister, as a director of the National Bank of Belgium. And so in 2 to 3 weeks, I suddenly became the acting dean because the dean had to go to help the country with this important role. And so I was first acting dean and then elected dean, but that at that time it was really not foreseen. And I like to be project oriented, so I had a very important project which was to create the QTEM network. It's called QTEM, so Quantitative Techniques for Economics and Management. It's a network which includes nowadays 24 universities. It's at the master level, and each university or business school can send up to 20 students in the network, and they are trained to be more analytical oriented for managerial disciplines. They must go abroad, they must do an internship, and they must have a project with other students in the world where they receive a challenge from the industry. And a few years ago, we had a challenge from Solvay company. Yeah. And they have to crunch the data to analyze it, but jointly with colleagues from other parts of the world. So they must learn about digital leadership. So that was a QTEM network, one important project. And the latest entry into the network is actually Rabat Business School. And we will actually have the yearly meeting of the QTEM network next October in Rabat. So we are all very enthusiastic because it's the first time we have a school, a member on the African continent. And we hope to have more than one, but we start with that.
Yeah. And I love it, Bruno, because you are building bridges, right? I mean, you talked about Harvard and you know, obviously Rabat is close to my heart because I grew up in Morocco. So you're bridging with Africa, which is also, we understood it's part of your roots. So, but I think connecting our students with the rest of the world and other regions and continents is so critical these days. And one of the most exciting developments I witnessed myself at the Solvay Brussels School is that you are starting the Belgium's, I would say, first executive masters in sustainability transformation, which is very much in line. We talked about it with what Ernest Solvay would have wanted and done. And of course, you asked me, and I'm honored to be an ambassador for this great initiative because it fits perfectly in my values, the values of my institution. And it's perfect topic to discuss on our podcast because, as you know, it's about the power of the and, A&D. So how we can make businesses both sustainable and profitable. And this degree is so important because today you can't conduct business by just looking at numbers. Financials are definitely not enough. And it's also about the people, about the planet, about how to impact the ecosystem around us. And leaders that understand this will create companies that last are those who are going to thrive. So very, very glad to see your school, the Solvay Brussels Schools, has an incredible opportunity here to be driver of that change by instilling the mindset shifts which we need, especially with the younger generation, our successors. So please, can you tell our audience more about this degree?
Yes. So the degree, the executive master in sustainability, it's actually the cherry of the cake, the cherry on the cake of all our actions that were related to sustainability and our deep dive into sustainability. It actually started with the support of the Solvay Foundation back in 2017, who helped us to deploy a sustainability strategy within the school. And actually, it has started with the bachelor degrees, and we really implemented sustainability initiative all over our degrees to end up with this, what I call the cherry on the cake, the executive master in sustainability, for which you are part of and you support very nicely, and thank you again for that. So what we do at why sustainability is important, you said it. It's a must to accelerate the transition and to make sure that we we train our younger generation and older generation to be more effective towards sustainability initiatives and to create sustainable companies, sustainable institutions, be they public or private, by the way, and actually to reduce our carbon footprint and have I would say a happier future and a future which is more acceptable for the future generations. And so the initiative, which started with the help of Solvay Foundation, actually, was led by Professor Cantillon, Estelle Cantillon. And what she did instead, we do have courses specialized in sustainability, on sustainability. But what we also did is to have professors coordinating each other so that we see sustainability projects from different angles. The legal viewpoint, the economic viewpoint, the technological viewpoint, the financial viewpoint, of course, and so on. And so we have a fantastic project which is within the school, thanks to the leadership of Estelle, and now much more professors have been involved, that coordinate on various tracks. So we have the tracks on energy, we have a tracks on circular economy, on happiness at work, and on global welfare. And then at the end of the value chain of our activities, we have the executive master in sustainability, which is very young. It opened 2 years ago, and with your support. And that actually focuses on all the dimensions of sustainability, including, of course, the more scientific based, but as well the finance based, the economics based, the strategy dimension of sustainability. And it's a very nice program. Actually, I wish I wouldn't be dean. I would follow it.
Well, you may be doing both. And frankly, I may just join you in the classroom. You're right. I think I wish I'm younger, right? Even to be just in the class 100%. And I like what you said, because we realize in our jobs today as leaders of publicly traded company or private company that you need a holistic view on sustainability. That you need that, we call it scope 3, even between the end to end with your suppliers, customers, and the end users. And I like what you said about looking at it from different angle of legal, economic, technological, and financial point of view. You cannot just look at it just from environment or CO2 emission, greenhouse gas emission. You need it all. And what is unique as an ambassador of the program, one of the most interesting modules, I think, is the sustainable finance, because that's something which we need badly in our corporations, right? Can you tell us a bit more about how the course helps to inspire students to promote sustainable financing mechanisms that will attract and retain investors? And also maybe broadly, Bruno, what exactly does it take to be a sustainable leader in your view today?
Yeah, thank you. So two very interesting questions. So sustainable finance, indeed, it's true that in the past, I would say 15 years ago, when we were talking about sustainability, it was about the sustainability of the business model and whether you could survive and say, and now, of course, it has completely switched. The definition includes sustainability in terms of integrating the social and environmental impact. And that's very important. And it's true that you need to be profitable, but you need to integrate these environmental and social dimension. And we really see a switch in mindset. And I would say that companies change a bit less fast than our students. When we look at our students, they are much more convinced and I would say passionate by these challenges than some of the companies we interact with. And that's okay. That's logical. And that's it's an illustration of the challenges that we face in terms of training and the speed of the transformation. And so we do have, we create new courses of sustainable finance with in its various dimensions, because you could have sustainable finance in which you focus more on the reporting and the measurement of the other dimensions than pure finance, like the CO2 footprint and the social impact, but you as well have impact finance and all these tendency, the current tendency that goes towards investing in projects which have a bigger impact on society and attempting to measure this project while staying, of course, profitable, because otherwise it can't survive for long. And it evolves a lot. I'm sure that the course that we will deliver 5 years from now will be completely different from the course that we deliver today. So that's one. What was the second question?
Yes. About what does it mean being a sustainable leader? But I think you started alluding to that. It's all comprehensive and holistic, and it has to be inclusive of all dimensions. That's what's I think I'm hearing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'd like to two contributions to that debate or to that question. The first one, I'm in charge of the sustainability lab in the executive MBA. And the executive MBA at Solvay is an open enrollment program, so it's not in partnership. And in the second level, they must do the sustainability lab, and it must be useful to one of the students' companies, one of the learners' companies. So it's a real case that they must develop. And what's interesting, over the past 3 years, all the projects had to be validated by the company because we want it to be useful to the company. And the company said always, "Warm, thank you, please go ahead, but at zero cost." So it's a bit the context in which we navigate is that we do have an understanding and a willingness to go, but I would say the finance matters, and we don't have yet a huge commitment. Hence the challenge of training future leaders and current leaders. And we had a fantastic discussion actually when we kicked off the 120th anniversary. You hosted us last January. Well, January 2023, if you remember. We had 40 CEOs from Belgium, from small and many large companies. All the banking sector was there. Yeah. We had the Prime Minister, we had Thomas Dermin as well. We had you, of course. And all these leaders were in the same room debating on what should be the training of a future leader, if you remember. Yeah. And that pursued with a survey and a more in-depth analysis of these companies and other companies through a collaboration with BCG and Russell Sweat. And the outcome of this study was very interesting. That was kicked off in the Maison Ernest Solvay, by the way. We asked ourselves, do we still need to have chemistry, physics in our degree, in business degree, business engineering? Do we still need multidisciplinary focus and so on? And the feedback was overwhelming. Please keep a very strong multidisciplinary approach. It's more important than ever. Keep the sciences. And so what's interesting, they told us keep. And then what should we add? And there was a bit more soft skills into the ability to lead people. I mean, to bring people on board, to have more empathy, to have better leadership skills that are needed. We are not anymore in a system with a boss and its employees. The feedback from that exercise was very interesting. Yeah. And I would say multidisciplinary approach, understanding all the disciplines, the role of science and sociology for the sustainability transformation of our society.
By the way, for our audience, Maison Ernest Solvay means the house of Ernest Solvay. It still exists. I'm sitting here podcasting Bruno, and it has a history of gathering. So the Solvay conferences started here from 1911. So we like to see the great minds gathering and reinventing models, be it business models or science or technology. So you were here, and indeed, Bruno talks about the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister of Belgium was a student, and graduates from the Solvay Brussels schools. The Thomas Dermin, the State Secretary for Economics Recovery and Strategic Investments, is also, coming from the Solvay Brussels school. So it was interesting to see your alumni gathering and even co-innovating with you and co-brainstorming about the new ways of bringing the soft elements. You talked about empathy, etc. So switching gears maybe to the youth, right? I look at them and how they can succeed to us and do better than us. So tell me now, what's your favorite thing about working with the young leaders, and what advice would you give to our young leaders in the audience?
Well, I also have teenagers who will soon reach the university level. And I would say my first recommendation is follow your passion, because when you are passionate, you don't work anymore. You are not a student anymore. You learn and you learn to be better in a field that you love. So when possible, of course, it's to follow your passion. Whatever you study at university, it has always a multidisciplinary component. And so you may like or dislike some field or some like economics or statistics or chemistry or whatever, but it's useful at the end of the day. And so you have to go through this first year of education, keeping in mind that you prepare yourself and your competences for the future. What's interesting, the current system is completely changing, and the way the students integrate and perceive their future. In the past, when I was a student, we went to university not having no clue about what we would do in the future. What matters was to learn. And here, of course, they still want to learn, but they have a more precise view of what they want to do in the future. That's one. The second, in the past, 10 years or 15 years ago, when there was a job opening in a large company or in a big bank or whatever, the students were running and queuing. They were fighting, competing to have the job. Nowadays, it has changed completely. The priority is a good balance between the private and of course, professional life. And I think that the corporate world has to adapt to that, because the time in which you would start working and be ready, in some of the consulting companies, to work over the weekends, to work very late. And so it doesn't work anymore to attract talented students. The talented students, they know and they're aware that you need a healthy life, and that goes through your friends, to your family, and of course to your job.
Yeah,
so that's the new generation. And I think companies have to find ways to adapt, because they are talented students, and it's important so it's a bilateral adaptation we see, which was not there 10 years ago.
Absolutely. You're right. My generation and some of us were educated, and we grew up in working hard. And here I hear more about the mental health, right?
Yes.
That's balance of healthy life. And what does it mean? It means different things for different people, but it's part of the conversation and the dialogue. And you're right, it's coming to the workplace, which is, by the way, healthy as well. So I think there is different ways of living your day. Now I'm curious, what are your areas of interest or hobbies, real hobbies, other hobbies outside of work? And I get it that your hobby is probably your work as well. And are all of these interests connected in any way?
It's true that I have a truly international and multicultural experience, both in my family, my professional experience, and my private life. So I love multiculturality, and research is really one way to be exposed to multiculturality and internationalization. And I have a passion for cooking, and I love to cook dishes that are inspired by Africa, by Asia. and by Europe.
So what's your favorite meal, or what you cook best?
Okay, the last 3 dishes I have prepared or that I will prepare tomorrow for my family, actually.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is a poulet tagine olive citron.
I love it. My God, that's very close to not only my heart, but my skills as well. So one day we should trade our recipes, Bruno. So for the audience, this is a Moroccan dish.
Yes.
And it's lovely because it's salty and sweet, right? Bruno is both.
Indeed, it's salty and sweet, and it must cook a long time in order to be to have les citrons confits, and it's really good. Otherwise, aubergine farcie, la recette Ottolenghi. He has a fantastic recipe that I adapted to my to how I like to cook it, and as well. Les cœurs d'artichaut farcis is quite. That's from Lebanon.
Lebanon, Well, and cooking is probably a key to other cultures. By the way, we had a podcast on cooking and chemistry, so Bruno is all in the podcast scope. So we loved it. We did it with a molecular professor in Paris, right? So it was really exciting. Well, thank you so much, Bruno, for joining me today. I really enjoyed this conversation. You brought us so many insights, and I thought it was really important to bring a dean of a school, because it's all about education and helping our youth, the future leaders, to be well equipped to live their life at full potential. And thank you for the great advices on practical steps we can all take to achieve that power of the end and be both sustainable and profitable. Thank you very much for inspiring us, Bruno.
Thank you, Ilham. And if I may say one last word, the biggest challenge, and I would say private and of the school, that we are currently in the making, we are really entrepreneurial. We are creating our 2 bachelors. We duplicate them in English so that we can internationalize the vision of Ernest Solvay. And so from next September onwards, our 2 bachelor degrees will be offered in English. It's a real entrepreneurial project because we launch it without having yet the funding of it. But we are working endlessly on that. And if I had to say that one of the contribution of the current mandate that I have is this fantastic project. And actually, we internationalize the vision of Ernest Solvay for education. So,
thank you for that. I think it's the best ending. And for our audience, they cannot see it, but behind you, there is a map of the word. So it's called the word. And you internalize education, when you educate the students, when you educate the classroom, you simply transform the word. Thank you, Bruno.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us today. For more information or to listen to other episodes, visit our website. And if you like these podcasts, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, be safe.